We continue now at the top of Daf Bezim and Bezim Mesechet Shekalim. This is Shekalim Daf Tube. The Gemara in the previous Amud had suggested that people who live far away from Yerushalayim, so we make the announcement much earlier than Rosh Chodesh Adar to tell them to bring the Machatzis HaShekel. That way they're going to have time to bring the Machatzis HaShekel on time by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And so the Gemara asks, is that really true? There's a Mishnah later on that says that there were 3 times during the year, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, where they would draw money from the Trumas HaLishka in order to bring Karbanos Tzibor. And that implies that people who live far away have till Shavuos or till Sukkot to donate their Machatzis HaShekel. So what do we need to make an announcement so early? The deadline for them is not Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the Gemara answers, Elo kula ka'achasiban. No, rather, everybody really would bring it by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, even people that were far away. V'lama amru b'shlosha prakim. And what are they talking about in this Mishnah later on, where it says there are 3 times in the year where they withdraw money from the Trumas HaLishka in order to bring Karbanos Tzibor? Kedei lasos pumbi l'davar. That's just to make it public, to publicize the matter. In other words, when people are in Yerushalayim on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, we want them to see that we're using the money that they donated to bring Karbanos. So they would make a public withdrawal of the funds, that's the Trumas HaLishka, in order to bring the Karbanos. But in terms of when the money should be brought in, when it should be donated, that's Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And the Gemara continues, Rav Yehuda bar Pazi b'shem Rebbe. Rav Yehuda bar Pazi says in the name of Rebbe, Hein nikra v'lo nivas. You can't read the following psukim without trembling, without being in fear. Latova kol nadiv lev. When it talks about donating and making a donation for a positive thing, meaning here for the Mishkan, people whose heart motivated them, they donated. But l'raba, when it comes to something bad, meaning by the Egel, vayisparku kolom v'gomer, it says the entire nation gave. So you see that for evil, everybody was involved, but for good, it was only some people. Similarly, l'tova, for good, vayotze Moshe es ha'am. It says that Moshe took out the nation. So there it's talking about the Matan Torah. Moshe had to bring everyone out. They didn't come on their own. But l'ra, by the bad situation of the Meraglim, v'tikravuna elai kulchem, you all came to me on your own. Similarly, l'tova, for a good thing, Oz Yashir Moshe v'nei Yisrael, by Oz Yashir, it says that Moshe got everybody to sing. But l'ra, when it comes for something bad, again, by the Meraglim, v'tisa kol hoidav v'gomer, it says they all lifted their voices. They didn't need to be motivated by Moshe, like by Oz Yashir, where he leads them in the singing. They scream out on their own. And the Gemara continues along similar lines. Amar Reb Chia bar Abba. Reb Chia bar Abba says, we learn this from the Navi as well. It says, Achein hishkimu hishchisu. It says they awoke in order to be destructive. The idea is, V'chol hashchasa shayuosin b'hashkama hayuosin osa. When they did these destructive acts, similar to the actions of the Egel, they did it b'hashkama, they did it waking up early. And as the Karban Ha'eda says over here, Achein hashkimu hashchisu kilomer gama Navi Tzefanya hochichon kayotze bozeh. And the Navi Tzefanya also rebukes them in this manner. Hashchasa also b'hashkama. The bad things they do b'hashkama, waking up early. V'atov lo asu b'hashkama. The good things they don't do b'hashkama. Shagabe Egel ksiv vayashkimu mimocharas. By the Egel it says the word vayashkimu. V'gabe nidvas hamishkan ksiva, by the donations of the Mishkan, what does it say? V'heim heviu olavod nadava baboker. Baboker just says morning. V'lo b'hashkama mamish. It doesn't say hashkama, so that's the same kind of criticism. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Abba bar Acha. Rav Abba bar Acha says, Ein at yochol amur al ufya shel umazu. You can't understand the nature of this nation. Nisboin le'egel v'nostin. They're asked to give money for the Egel, and they give money for the Egel. Nisboin le'mishkan v'nostin. And they're asked to give money for the Mishkan, and they give as well. In other words, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, they're ready to donate. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina teaches, Hod masnisa, the following brisa. V'yasisa kapores zohav tar. It says that you're going to make the kapores, it's going to be pure gold. Yavo zohav shel kapores v'yachaper al zohav shel Egel. The gold of the kapores comes as a kapara for the gold of the Egel. Simple way of understanding this is that Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina is answering Rav Abba bar Acha's question. Rav Abba bar Acha said, I don't understand the nature of this nation. They donate to good things, they donate to bad things. And the answer is no, the donation to good things was actually meant to be a kapara. On the contrary, they were trying actively to have an atonement for that which they did with the Egel, that which they did that was bad. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Chagi b'shem Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi Chagi in the name of Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Shalosh trumos nemru beparsha zos. It says 3 different kinds of trumos, 3 different kinds of donations in this parsha. Trumas Adonim, one is the donation they made for the Adonim, that was the base that held up the pillars, the columns of the Mishkan. Utrumas Shekalim, and also the donations, what we call the Shekalim. Utrumas HaMishkan, and then the general donations that they donated materials for the Mishkan. And here's the psukim. Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yichu li truma v'gomer. First the pasuk says, they should take from me truma, zu trumas Adonim. That refers to the truma, the donations that are made for the Adonim. Again, that's the silver bases that hold up the columns, that hold up those columns that are the walls of the Mishkan. Me'ez Chalisha Asher Yidvenu Libo. Then the pasuk says, from anyone who donates, whose heart motivates him to donate, Tikchu es Trumasi, take my Truma. Zu Truma Shekalim, that's called what's called Truma Shekalim, the regular Machatzis HaShekel donation. And then Vizos HaTruma Asher Tikchu Me'itam, Zu Trumas HaMishkan. The pasuk of Vizos HaTruma, that refers to the general donations they made, materials for the Mishkan. And the Gemara explains, Trumas HaMishkan LeMishkan, Masha Yirtzu Yasu. Trumas HaMishkan was whatever people wanted to donate, they donate. There was no set amount. Trumas Shekalim LeKarban. Now Trumas Shekalim, that was for Karbanos. Masha Yirtzu Yasu Kadesh Yad Kulan Shava. There, everybody gave equally. In other words, the point is, everyone gave exactly a Machatzis HaShekel, and that was used for the Karbanos. And Trumas Adonim LaAdonim Ha'asher Lo Yarbev Ha'ada Lo Yamin. When it came to the Adonim, that's also similar. When it came to the Adonim, the silver base of the Mishkan, that was the person who was wealthy didn't give more, the person who was poor did not give less. Everybody gave the same amount. Now, regarding Trumas Shekalim for Karban, again, the Gemara said, Masha Yirtzu Yasu. So the Gra over here notes, Tzarech Lomer Masha Yirtzu Yaviu V'chulu LeKarban Masha Yirtzu Yaviu. What that really means is that when it comes to the Trumas Shekalim, whatever carbon they want to bring from that money, they can bring. Aval Yad Kulam Shava, but in terms of the donation, everyone gives the same amount. Ha'asher Lo Yarb, if you're wealthy, you don't give more. Mimachatz is Trumas Adonim LaAdonim V'chulu. The Girsas HaSvarim Masha Yirtzu Yasu Hushibush. When it says Masha Yirtzu Yasu, that's actually a mistake. That which they bring with the money, that's a different story. But in terms of how much is donated, that's going to be the same by both the situation of the Trumas Shekalim and the Trumas Adonim. They always donated, everybody donated the same amount, whether a person was wealthy or poor. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Avon says, Af beParsha Hazos, Nemar Bo Gimel Trumos. Even in the Parsha, a little bit later on, it also mentions the three Trumos. It says, Machatzis HaShekel, Trumal Hashem, Yitein Trumas Hashem, and it says Loses Trumas Hashem. That again, that is a hint to the three Trumas, what we call the Trumas Shekalim, the Trumas HaMishkan, and the Trumas Adonim. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, B'tesvav bo Korinus HaMegillah B'krochim. It says in our Mishnah that on the 15th of Adar, they read the Megillah in the walled cities. And so the Gemara asks a contradiction, Lochein Amar Rav Chelbo Rav Huna Rab B'Shem Rav Chia Rabba. It's not the same as that which Rav Chelbo says in the name of Rav Huna Rab and the name of Rav Chia Rabba. What does he say? He says, Hakol Yotzen Biyodalid Shuhuz Man Kriyasa. He says everybody is really Yotze on the 14th, meaning even those in walled cities, if they want, they could read on the 14th. That certainly doesn't seem like what our Mishnah is saying. So the Gemara answers, no, Lo Bo L'Lamedcha Shekol HaMitzvos HaNohagos Ba'adar Sheni Ein HaNohagos Ba'adar Rishon. Really, our Mishnah also agrees with that. Our Mishnah is simply saying that those things that are supposed to be done in Adar Sheni shouldn't be done in Adar Rishon, but our Mishnah is not being strict about the 15th versus the 14th. And the Gemara continues, Rav Yosef and Rav Acha have a Yosvin. So Rav Yosef and Rav Acha were sitting. Amar Rav Yosef and Rav Acha. And Rav Yosef said to Rav Acha, Lo mistabro el l'sha'avar. This halacha only makes sense after the fact. Meaning, if you already had the 14th, you're in a walled city, you land on the 14th, and then you finish the 15th, you don't land on the 15th either, so then, b'di'evet, you're yotze with the 14th. Avalabah, lo. But if lahaba, meaning lechatchila, if you land on the 14th and the 15th arrives, certainly people in the walled cities should land on the 15th. V'hatani makom shenagu likrosa shnei yamim koronosa shnei yamim. And he says the proof is that it says there were some places they had the minhag to read 2 days because they weren't sure if they counted like a walled city, like an unwalled city. So again, that seems to prove this point, because if you were yotze lechatchila on the 14th, why would they ever read for 2 days? It doesn't make sense. And Amar Lei, so he said back to him, again, that was the comment that Rabbi Yosef said to Rav Acha, and Rav Acha said back, Afana Sover Kain, I agree with you on that point. In other words, lechatchila, certainly they should read on the 15th. They should not rely on the reading on the 14th. Amar Rabbi Mana v'Yos, and Rabbi Mana says that is correct. That is the correct halacha. Ilu mishakirya b'yodalit chose v'kirya b'tesvav. If, when they read it on the 14th, they again read it on the 15th, Shema in Shomin lo, would they not listen to him? If you said that, then it's like you're totally uprooting the time to read in the walled cities. In other words, what Rabbi Mana is saying is, Rabbi Mana says, of course, if you read on the 14th, you should again read on the 15th. Because if you wouldn't do that, if once you read on the 14th, you're done and you don't have to read on the 15th, then no one in the walled cities is ever going to read on the 15th. The entire concept of reading on the 15th in the walled cities is going to disappear. And the Gemara continues, Tanya was taught, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Mitzvahs hanohagos ba'adar sheni eina nohagos barishon. Those mitzvahs which are noheg in adar sheni, you don't do them in adar rishon. chutz may hesped v'tainis, except for the issues of eulogies and fasting that you don't do, whether it's Adar Rishon, whether it's Adar Sheni, the 14th, 15th of either month, you're not going to have hesped and tainis, shein shavin, bazeh vazeh. That's going to be equal in both. And many of the commentaries point out that this halacha of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is really saying that this applies to the Seder Parshios as well, like Parshas Parah, Parshas Shekalim, Parshas Zachor. Those are not going to be knowing in Adar Rishon. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, they're only going to be knowing in Adar Sheni. And so the Gemara says, Rabbi Bo, Rabbi Yirmiyah, B'Shem Rav, Rabbi Simon, B'Shem Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. All of these various Amoraim say, halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. This is indeed the halacha. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, that all of these halachas don't apply in Adar Rishon, including the Seder Parshios. Rav Huna Rabba de Tziporin Amar, and Rav Huna the Rav of Tzipori says, Hinig Rabbi Chanina b'Tziporin kahadad Rav Shimon Gamliel. He says that the minhag of Rabbi Chanina and Tzipori was to do like Rav Shimon Gamliel. And so the Gemara points out, Lo Amar Elahinig. It only says that this was the custom. Avol hala halacha lo, but he doesn't say this is actually the halacha. Meaning you wouldn't darshan this publicly according to this statement of Rabbi Chanina of Tzipori. But the Gemara says, Avol le'inyan shtaras, but when it comes to shtaras, kosvin Adar Rishon v'Adar Sheni stam. So when you write a shtar, if it's Adar Rishon, you're going to write Adar Rishon. But if it's Adar Sheni, you just write Adar Stam, because Stam Adar, in a situation where there are two Adars, refers to Adar Sheni. But the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says he disagrees with this comment about shtaros, and he says Adar Rishon, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph.